Hello and welcome to a special edition of the short Vort dedicated Le'ilui Nishmas for Rabbi Berel Wein, who is my Rosh Yeshiva at Yeshiva Shari Torah for high school, as well as other points. He was a Rebbe to me. Re'ei anochi nosein lefnechem hayom. Very apropos to be discussing Rabbi Wein with these words, Ray, see, because he was someone who could always see in history. He looked, he had the perspective of a historian. He told the story about when he moved to Israel, he had to take a driver's license test again because it's not transferable from the States. And they don't tell you, whether you passed or not. But the person who gave him the test told him, you're a good driver. And he asked, why do you say I'm a good driver? Some gentleman said, because when you got out of the driving space, you looked in the rearview mirror. Nobody looks at the rearview mirror. Now that's a historian looking back, but always using that to look and project forward. And Anochi nosein lefnechem hayom, something he did every single day of his life till pretty much to the end, that he was giving over his knowledge and his thoughts. Now, my connection to him, and I'm going to share it as a perspective because he was the Rosh Yeshiva, Yeshiva Shari Torah, where I attended high school. And before that, I met him in elementary school on Shabbos afternoons. Rabbi Wein would have different classes, and one was for young men. And we learned Mishnayos, and afterwards, I remember he gave out a few sour balls of different colored candies. That was the first time I had a connection with him. Later on, it was high school. In high school, he shared Divrei Torah, the Jewish history, for the 9th through 12th grade. He used to give a little bit of asides that he said, I can't share this with the general public on the tapes, but I can tell the Bachman in the Yeshiva. He also would make fun of the local New York sports teams, particularly the New York Mets of that point of the 1980s. And you'll hear from different people some of the greatness of what he was, but one other thing is the Orach HaKadosh says about Moshe, said, Re'ei Anochi, that one of the messages about the Anochi is you can listen to me to teach you about Bracha and Klala, teach you what's good and bad by the fact that I'm rich, so you can't say I'm not into this world, Olam Hazeh, but I was also up in Shemayim, so I know about Olam Haba, and I know that the next world is the better world, and that's where the focus should be. Rabbi Wein was a lawyer. He could have remained a lawyer, but instead he took his skills and he went to the Rabbanos. He founded Yeshiva, the Beis Torah, a shul just outside of Monsey and Suffern, and he founded Yeshiva Shari Torah, which still goes on under new management. And I loved attending that yeshiva. The hashkafa there was the type that I like. I come from a Torah Derech Eretz family, and Rabbi Wein Z'tl, we had to wear hats and jackets for davening, but it wasn't a black hat yeshiva, but it emphasizes both Torah learning, good Torah learning, and good secular education. And I was always proud that Rabbi Wein, as he became more famous, was my Rav, and then I knew him personally, if not necessarily close. When I'd read his articles in the Jerusalem Post, whether it's on the weekly politics or it was on the Divrei Torah, it's rare that I had a difference of opinion with him. Hashkafically, it just fit. One of the things I did later on, the last few years, I would go to stay in the Shari Chesed and Rechavia area in Yerushalayim, so I could learn at a kol there, but I would also make time to go to Beit Knesset Hanasi, where he had been the Rav, and during the week before Mincha and Ma'ariv, he would often speak, and I would try to go before Ma'ariv so that I can listen to him speak then, as well as his Parsha Shir Friday morning sometimes, but he also had a Pirkei Avos on Shabbos afternoon. Now this year, because of the war with Iran, the first 2 weeks the shul closed down because they followed the rules of the land, and that was the security policy. Then he wasn't feeling well the third week, but the fourth week, he was able to talk about the Parsha, and it was about he was talking topical today in his 90s. He still knew what was going on. Mentally, he was there. He spoke very clearly, and he talked about the New York mayoral race with an anti-Semite Mandami running for election, and he made the historical comparison to Vienna in the late 1900s, where there was an anti-Semite running, and by my research, the name seems to be Karl Luger, who became mayor in 1897 until 1910. This anti-Semite, he won the election despite running on an anti-Semitic policy position, and he wasn't able to implement his plans because politics, there's puts and takes. But he noticed that Rabbi Wein noted that 30 years later, Jews were cleaning the streets of Vienna with brushes. And my research today online, if you can trust online, says that he was an inspiration for Hitler, Yamach Shemo. Rabbi Wein also said, like, just because something happened there doesn't mean it has to continue. Anything can happen at this point. But I found it interesting that he made the parallel. The last few years he wasn't able to see well, but that last Shabbos I did go over to him before Mayoral or after Mincha, and I said, I'm Efraim Levy from Muncie and Shari Torah, and in his inimical voice, which I can't necessarily impersonate, but of course you are. And he just knew how to connect with people from all backgrounds, from left, right, and center. I'm proud to know him, and it's of course a loss for someone. And little PS is he bought a house that we had looked at in Muncie, but we didn't buy. Have a wonderful Shabbos. May we share B'suros Tovos.